Good day, everyone. Today, we will discuss one of the most fundamental topics in biochemistry, the water, pH, and buffers. Before we proceed to our discussion proper kung ano ba nga ba yung other biomolecules na binanggit ko nung orientation sa ating klase, pag-aaralan muna natin yung pinaka-basic and the most fundamental things that we need to learn in biochemistry. Many people think that water is simply something we drink, but biologically, it is the medium where almost every chemical reaction inside our body occurs. Without water, enzymes cannot function, nutrients cannot be transported, and cells cannot survive without those specific needs. We will also learn why maintaining correct pH is essential and how our body prevents dangerous changes in acidity through buffer system. So without any further ado, let us proceed to our discussion. At the end of today's lesson or discussion, you should be able to explain why water possesses unique biological properties, describe what pH means, and why is it important in biochemistry. You will also be able to solve pH-related problems using different equations used in pH solving, and explain how biological buffers can maintain an acid-base balance. These objectives are highly relevant in medicine, especially into you that are nurses and future healthcare professional, because disorders such as acidosis and alkalosis involve disturbances in our pH regulation. Simulan natin yung discussion natin sa properties of water. Gaya ng diniscuss ko before, water is very important in life. Hindi lang siya basta something na nakikita natin, naiinom natin, etc. Dito nakadepende yung buhay natin. It is very abundant in our world. Around 71% of the surface of our planet is covered by bodies of water. And even in our body, it is very abundant. Sabi dito, 60 to 70% ng katawan natin ay made up of water. Sir, paano po yun? Hindi naman namin nakikita yung water, hindi naman namin nararamdaman yung water sa katawan namin, pero bakit sabi naging made up of water po kami? Kasi at a cellular level, water makes up 70 to 90% of our cell, especially in our cytoplasm. Our cytoplasm is an aqueous solution that holds organelles and biomolecules all together, and it is made up majorly of water. Water is the medium for structure, transport, reaction, signaling, and homeostasis in our body. And at a molecular level, kung pag-aaralan natin si water, ang mga ilan sa mga properties niya is first, it is a good temperature stabilizer or buffer. And sabi ko nga before, hindi basta-basta nagbabago ang temperatura ng katawan natin dahil sa presensya ng water. Hindi siya ganun kadaling maapektuhan ng environment na meron tayo. Ganun din, sumusupport siya sa biochemical reaction natin, lalo na sa presence ng enzymes. Paano nagkakaroon ng contact yung enzymes natin dun sa substrate na target niya. 'Di ba? Sabi ko nga doon sa experiment natin, it is a great catalyst for those specific reaction. It is also a good solvent. Kilala ang water natin as a universal solvent kasi sa sobrang daming polar molecules na nadidissolve niya. It dissolves ions and polar molecules through hydration shells. Next, polar and hydrogen bonding. Water molecule attract each other and surround other molecules. I-discuss natin yung properties niya when we talk about adhesion and cohesion, etc. Next, necessary siya sa transport ng mga nutrients natin sa katawan, gases, ions, and movement of blood and cellular fluid because blood cannot flow without the liquid portion of it, the plasma, and plasma is made up almost entirely of water aside dun sa mga proteins and hormones etc. na nakikita natin. Next, osmosis. Ito yung property ni water when it can move freely through the membranes in, and maintains balance. It moves through what we call passive diffusion. So, anong pinagkaiba ng osmosis and passive diffusion? Passive diffusion, it is how water passes through our cellular membranes. Ngayon, kung titingnan nyo dito, molecules move down and up on their concentration gradient. Pumupunta siya kung saan concentrated and kung saan kulang ang presence ng solvent uh, compare sa ratio nito sa solute. Yung osmosis naman is the whole process kung saan yung water ay nagpapass through kung saan siya kailangan and yung other molecules, hindi lang siya. Pero mostly, ang involved dito is water. Sa metabolic reaction naman natin, enzymatic reaction occurs in an aqueous cytoplasm. Cell communications, kung paano nagko-communicate ang one cell to another through hormones, signal, and enzymes, nagyayari yon through the presence of water because those are being sent or being suspended while circulating sa water. And lahat ng yun dumadaan sa blood natin. And blood natin, sabi ko nga kanina, is dependent on water. Next, waste removal. Kung meron tayong mga need ilabas ng katawan natin because metabolic waste are carried away and it needs to go somewhere. So, saan siya lumalabas? Halos madalas lumalabas yan either sa ihi or sa feces. And ang pinaka major way ng katawan natin para i-expel yung waste na yon is through urination. Lalo na yung mga excess na electrolytes na hindi naman kailangan. Kasi sa katawan natin, lagi nating tatandaan, masama ang sobra. And nire-regulate ng katawan natin yon, isinasabay natin yung waste na yon kapag umiihi tayo. It is being mediated by the pag-expel ng water ng katawan natin through urination. Let us now dive deeper into the properties of water and why our life depends on it. First, let's start with the structure and polarity of water. Napag-aralan nga natin kahapon na yung water is polar. Water consists of two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. Although water is electrically neutral all over, sabi ko nga before, even sa pH natin, neutral yan eh. And it is also electrically neutral. But it is a polar molecule because oxygen attracts electron more strongly than hydrogen. And as a result, ano nangyayari? Sabi ko nga before, meron siyang charge, di ba? Yung oxygen natin is partially negative and hydrogen becomes partially positive. This unequal distribution of charge allows water molecule to interact with each other through hydrogen bonds. Although hydrogen bonds is weak, but many hydrogen bonds together becomes stable. That is the reason why hindi naman basta-basta nasisira yung bonds ng water natin kasi water is made up of hydrogen bonds. Next, many drugs dissolve because of water's polarity. Without this polarity, many nutrients wouldn't be dissolved, blood uh, blood transport would stop, and metabolism would cease to exist or would not happen. Ganun kahalaga si water natin and its structure and polarity. Because of this characteristic, sabi ko nga before, water became known as the universal solvent kasi napakadami niyang kayang i-dissolve, lalo na sa mga polar substances natin. Proceed ngayon tayo sa polarity and hydrogen bonding. The polarity of water allows hydrogen bonds to form. Remember, hydrogen bonds are much weaker than covalent bonds. But billions of hydrogen bonds, gaya nga ng sinabi ko kanina, together they provide tremendous stability. And hydrogen bonds are responsible for, una, DNA helix stability. Natatandaan nyo yung sinabi ko? yung structure ng DNA natin is a double helix. Since it is a double helix, and tingnan nyo yung nakadrawing sa screen, di ba meron siyang double helix magkabilang side? Meron tayo diyang mga tinatawag natin na base pairs. Bakit mahalaga si hydrogen bond dito? Yung base pairs natin na yan, ano yung mga base pairs natin na yan? Yan yung guanine, adenine, cytosine, thymine, ayan yung mga yan. Sila yung tinatawag natin na base pairs. And lahat sila meron tinatawag na complementary base pairs. For example, guanine, this specific base pair, and this cytosine is designed for one another. Paano sila nagbabind? It happens through what we call hydrogen bond. Because of the hydrogen bond, nagiging stable yung helical structure ng DNA natin. Next, protein folding. Sir, nabanggit nyo nga po kahapon yan yung protein folding natin. Ano ba yung protein folding natin? Ang isang protein molecule po natin, hindi naman siya flat. Ikaw ba flat ka? You're made up of proteins. Ask yourself, di ba hindi? Ngayon, paano siya nangyayari? 3D siya. Ayan yun. Naku, nakikita niyo yung structure na yan sa baba. Sir, ano po yung meaning nun sinabi niyo 3D? Yung protein folding natin, nangyayari siya, nagfo-fold yung proteins natin, and nabubuo yung specific designed structure niya through this process. Ngayon, kita nyo parang gulo-gulo yung buhol-buhol. Kumbaga, constant yan. Hindi lang siya isang ganyan. May ganyan-ganyan siya. Depending sa target na design ng mismong protein natin. And those folds are designed specifically for specific function. Ngayon, kung wala yung hydrogen bonds, those folds would not happen. O ngayon, ano yung nangyayari diyan? Example ngayon natin. Nasisira yung bonds na yan kapag nagkaroon tayo ng tinatawag natin na protein denaturation. Sir, ano po yung protein denaturation? Ito yung mga folds na yan, yung bonds na yan nasisira. Sir, paano po natin may imagine yung visual representation na yan? Kasi parang nakakalito siya, sir. Imagine nyo na lang, yung isang karne, kapag fresh pa siya, hinawakan nyo, pinisil-pisil nyo, hinatak-hatak nyo, it serves its original purpose. It maintains its rigidity and nagiging stretchable siya, but it does not break easily. Ngayon, kung sakaling niluto mo siya, enough heat para ma-denaturize yung protein, pansinin nyo, unti-unti na siyang nahihimay because the structure of the protein itself is not what it's used to be. Yung mga bonds na yan at the molecular level, nasira na sila. Nasira na yung folds ng protein natin. Kung ganyan ang original na itsura niya, baka yung folds niya wala na, naging ganyan na siya. Naging parang loose pattern na siya. Wala na siyang folding. And because of those wala na yung foldings na yon, hindi niya nasa-serve yung original function niya. Next, it influences membrane structure. Natatandaan nyo yung water natin? It helps in maintaining the structure of our cells. And without hydrogen bonding, biomolecules lose structure and its function. Tatandaan natin palagi, lahat ng chemical natin nakadepende yung function nila kung ano yung structure nila. Even dun sa enzyme. Kaya ano, excuse me, nung sinabi ko na yung enzyme natin ay hindi na gumagana, baka dahil hindi siya nandun sa optimal temperature, etc. Meron kasi siyang specific design for specific substrate and hindi siya magbabind dun sa mga substrate na yan kung hindi na siya fit doon, kagaya nung ginawa kong drawing na to. Ito yung substrate, ito yung enzyme sa taas. If ganyan ang pagkakadesign niya, it targets specific substrates, gaya nung lipase natin. It targets lipids. Nakadesign siya para targetin yung mismong structure ng lipids natin. Kung mababago to, maaalis tong part na to, mag-fit pa ba siya? Hindi na. Kaya hindi na mawawala na yung normal function niya. Next, cohesion and adhesion in living systems. Sir, nabanggit nyo na nga po yan. Yan yung diniscuss natin no isang araw or kahapon. meron tayong, ulitin lang natin, meron tayong two important properties here. First, cohesion. It is the water's ability to stick together. Sir, paano po yun? Na-imagine ulit natin yung sa isang water drop sa windshield ng kotse kapag umuulan. Pansinin nyo, yung isang drop na yan, pagka may isa pang drop na tumama dyan, it will eventually turn into a large drop of water because of the water's ability to stick together. Ngayon, kung walang cohesive ability yung isang substance, kahit panong dikit ang gawin mo dyan, hindi yan magsasama. Ngayon, next naman is adhesion. Paano po nangyayari sa ang adhesion? Yung adhesion natin, yung water will stick to cell walls. Pansinin nyo, pag binasa nyo yung kamay nyo, kahit pinagpag nyo na yan, may naiiwan na nakadikit na small amounts of water because meron siyang adhesion na property. Paano natin madaling matatandaan? Sino yung sounds like niya? Adhesive o pandikit. It's sticky and it sticks to walls, 'di ba? Ngayon, para sa yung dalawa na yan, it enables the process that we call transpiration. Ano po yung transpiration sa mga plants? Ito yung how water is being transferred from the root up to the stem and then it goes to the leaves. Sabi ko nga, water also helps maintain the structure of the plants, the cells. Kaya nga hindi siya basta-basta nalalanta kapag ka nakababad sa tubig. So ngayon, ano po nangyayari dyan? From the base, sa roots, ia-absorb niya yung water. And since water adheres to cell walls, nakakatulong siya dun sa capillary action or yung pag-sip-sip nung plants natin sa water. And since water is sticky to another water or meron siyang cohesion or cohesive property, hindi lang siya ang isang molecule ang masisipsip, magdedire-diretso siya hanggang mapunta sila dun sa target na area. Next, movement of fluid in narrow biological tubes is being facilitated by water even in our body. Sabi ko nga capillary action, yung even yung capillaries natin sobrang liit nila but movement still happens because of water. Together, these two allow water to travel upward inside the plants through capillary action. Similar dun sa sinabi ko kanina. And capillary action also helps fluid move through tiny blood vessel. Let me reiterate that, ha? Inulit ko lang para madali nating matandaan. Ngayon, proceed naman tayo sa tinatawag nating thermal stability. Thermal stability is crucial in an organism's survival kasi meron tayong mini-maintain na normal body temperature. Ano ulit yung normal body temperature natin? 36 to 37. Dun lang naglalaro dapat ang body temperature natin kasi pag bumagsak siya, it is what we call hypothermia. And kapag tumaas naman siya, it is hyperthermia. Usually, pagka ganun, meron na tayong fever. Ngayon, water helps maintain our body heat through thermal resistance. High specific heat prevents rapid temperature changes. Basically, water is our body's thermal stabilizer. Paano po natin nasabing ganon? Kung lumabas ka ba sa mainit na lugar, like pumunta ka sa nakabilad na sa araw na lugar, magbabago ba bigla yung temperature mo? Hindi naman, 'di ba? Hindi magiging rapid ang pagtaas although may tendency na tumaas ng bahagya, hindi siya mabilisan and hindi siya nagiging sobrang taas because of water. This means it absorbs a large amount of heat before its temperature changes. Gaya nung in-example ko, kung ang isang thermometer ba ibinilad natin sa araw and yung isang thermometer ibinilad natin sa araw pero nakababad sa tubig, sino yung mas mabilis iinit sa kanila? Yung directly sa araw. Similar kapag naiinitan tayo, mainit ang pakiramdam natin. Yung swimming pool, nakabilad din and mainit din dapat. Pero pag talon natin, mas malamig yung feeling natin kapag nandun tayo sa tubig. because water is resistant to temperature changes. It takes time for its temperature to go up or down. Because of this, our body temperature remains stable despite severe environmental changes. Water also has a high heat of vaporization. When sweat evaporates, it removes heat from our body and cooling us. 'Di ba nabanggit ko nga, ito yung coping mechanism ng katawan natin kapag mainit. Why do we sweat? Kapag meron tayong kapag meron tayong lagnat, bakit kailangan nating mag-sweat pala? Rather, kasi evaporation removes body heat. Proceed tayo ngayon sa next part. Water as a universal solvent. It is an excellent solvent. Bakit? It dissolves salts, sugars, amino acids, ions, etc. It dissolves those that has ionic compounds, gaya niyan, nung sodium chloride natin, or polar molecules like glucose. It enables transport of nutrients and wastes in blood. Because it can dissolve those things, hindi na natin kailangang i-transport ng katawan natin at a large or large molecules. Kasi pansinin nyo, yung asin natin, kapag kakinain ba natin yan, pakakasya ba sa dugo natin yung buo-buo na salts? Hindi. Kailangan lusawin muna siya ng water sa katawan natin. And because of that, it is being easily transported at a molecular level. This makes water essential for blood circulation, nutrient transport, waste removal, cellular metabolism, etc. Example, glucose travels in the bloodstream only because it is dissolved in water. If it has not been dissolved, kung mananatili siya na parang asukal, hindi siya kayang i-transport ng katawan natin and hindi rin siya kayang i-intake ng cells kasi sobrang laki niya. Next, water as a reactant. Water doesn't only dissolve substances, it also participates directly in biochemical reactions. Paano po nangyayari yon? Una, hydrolysis or hydrolysis. Depende sa pagkakapronounce nyo. It is basically the breakdown of a single molecule using water. Paano po siya nangyayari? Example natin dyan, yung kapag nag-intake tayo ng protein, kumain tayo ng karne. Yung proteins na yan, ibe-breakdown yan ng enzymes natin or na targeted talaga yung proteins na yan like pepsin, trypsin that are designed to break down proteins. And those proteins are what we call hydrolase. Paano po nangyayari yon? They break down the proteins using the presence of water. Without water, it cannot happen or function. Next, condensation or dehydration, synthesis. Ano po nangyayari doon? Water is being removed while molecules join together. For an example, peptide bond formation during protein synthesis. Proceed naman nga tayo ngayon sa ionization of water. 'Di ba sabi ko nga kanina, reactant naman siya. Ngayon naman, hydrogen ion concentration and pH. Yung water natin, meron siyang hydrogen component and ang nangyayari dito, pag sinabi nating ionization, pwedeng may natatanggal na charge or nababawas, nadadagdag or nababawas. Water molecules, hindi ba natin nakikita but it undergoes breaking apart into ions and rejoining back into water. Kung nakikita natin dito, H2O2, yung H2O natin, merong extra hydrogen component. And then, nagiging H3O siya with hydroxide ion molecule. Bakit nangyayari yan? Kasi yung hydrogen bond natin is a weak bond but due to its amount, kung gaano sila kadami, nagiging stable pa rin siya. Although hindi natin nakikita, it constantly happens. As it continues, natural process called auto-ionization of water occurs. It is always happening but we only notice it when something changes the balance. Paano natin nasabing we only notice it when something changes the balance? Kapag ka naging extreme na yung changes na nangyari. Water produces ions and this is the basis of cellular acidity or yung pH natin. Ano yung pH natin? Power of hydrogen. Ano nangyayari do'n, mine-measure natin sa pH kung gaano kadami yung nadagdag na hydrogen. The more na nagdadagdagan yung hydrogen niya, the more siya nagiging acidic. And the more din siya nagkakaroon ng positive charge. Pure water is always producing hydrogen ions and hydroxide ions. Ngayon, kapag ka na-tilt yung balance na to, tsaka lang nagbabago. Nabanggit ko nga kanina, hydrogen ions helps in acidity. Ngayon naman si hydroxide ions, siya naman yung nare-release kapag ka nagiging basic or alkaline yung water natin. And since nagiging alkaline o yung water natin, tumataas naman yung pH niya. Kabaliktaran naman siya ngayon. Nagkakaroon siya ng tinatawag natin na negative charge. Lagi nating tatandaan ha, inverse yung pH natin palagi. Our center would always be 7. It is the neutral pH. Yung pure water natin is supposed to be nandun siya sa 7. Kung gagawa tayo ng table, kung ito yung table natin for pH, 7 yung nasa gitna, and then hanggang 1 dito, this is acidic. Mas bumababa ang number niya, mas nagiging acidic siya. And ang tumataas sa kanya is hydrogen ions. Ngayon naman, 7 to 10, mas tumataas ang number, mas tumataas sa 7, nagiging mas alkaline siya or mas basic siya. And ang tumataas naman sa kanya is hydroxide ions. Ito naman ay may negative charge. Yung acidic natin, since hydrogen ions yan, meron, nagke-carry siya ng positive charge. Our pH simply measures hydrogen ion concentration. That's the whole concept of it. Ano yung pH natin? Ang equation niya is pH minus logarithm of hydrogen. Pero hindi na natin gagamitin yan. Pinakita ko lang yan because ang mahalaga dyan is interpretation natin. Gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, pagka mas mababa sa 7 ang number, nagiging acidic siya. 7 itself is neutral and more than 7 is basic. Laging 7 ang neutrality natin. On the logarithmic nature of pH, each unit change 10 times in acidity. Example natin kung ito yan. Kung ito yung table na, yung chart natin. 7. Example natin dito, 3 versus 6 equals 1,000 times more acidic. Ngayon, simulan natin sa 7 para madali natin magets. 8, 9, 10, 7, 6, 5, 4, ayan. Ngayon, si 6 from 7, it is 10 times, sabi nga dito, bawat unit na madadagdag or mababawas, it is 10 times much more acidic. Ngayon, from 7 hanggang 5, since 10, additional times 10 ulit, 100 times more acidic. And from 7 to 4, ang mangyayari dyan, additional times 10, it is 1,000 times more acidic. So when we're comparing comparison on acidity or in alkalinity, laging 10 times kapag ka i-compare natin yung difference nila. So ibig sabihin, kung ang first substance ay 6 ang pH niya, and then the second substance is 3 ang pH niya, 1,000 times much more acidic si 3 kumpara kay 6. The second substance is more acidic 10,000 times around. Ngayon, pH is a measure of cellular condition. Ngayon, sa katawan natin, hindi naman kailangan always neutral. All just close to neutral. And may mga pagkakataon na yung parts ng katawan natin is supposed to be acidic or alkaline. Ngayon, different parts of body require different pH values. As an example, yung blood natin, dapat around nasa 7.4 lang yung pH niya. While our cytoplasm is closer to neutral, 7.2. While the lysosome, ang pH niya is 5. Bakit, sir? Ano nangyayari dyan? Each organelle has a specific pH for its function because enzymes only function properly within a certain range, and even our organelles only function for those specific things. Example natin dyan, yung stomach natin, mas acidic pero part din ng katawan natin yan kasi may function siya to digest. And acidity helps in breaking down those proteins, those lipids, etc. Yung function nila, nakadepende yung magiging pH nila. In this case, lysosome yung pinaka-acidic kasi usually involved yan sa digestion inside our cell. Ngayon naman, i-discuss natin bakit importante yung pH natin. Nakita nyo kanina yung sample problems, pero hindi na natin siya i-include sa topic natin since hindi naman tayo ganun ka-in-depth na pang-analytical chemistry. More on focus natin is biological function. So ngayon, i-discuss natin ang biological importance of pH. Una, enzyme function and pH. Our enzymes require pH called optimal pH. Sabi ko nga kanina, uh, enzymes natin is made up of what we call glycoproteins. And since may protein component si enzyme natin, meron din siyang tinatawag na requirements. Una, temperature requirements and optimal pH requirement. Ano mangyayari, sir, pag hindi na natin na-reach yung optimal pH na yon? If the pH changes, the enzyme may work slower, stop working, or get damage. Yun yung tinatawag natin na denaturization. Ang real biological example natin dyan is pepsin. Sa stomach natin, meron tayong enzyme na tumutulong na i-break down yung proteins natin. Ang optimal pH niya is 2. Sobrang acidic niya. While sa intestines natin, medyo basic naman siya. And same process, it continues digesting proteins. But this time, ang nagda-digest na is si trypsin. Ngayon, kung pagpapalitin natin sila ng pwesto, hindi sila gagana because it will get denatured. Nakadepende yung pH nila sa environment kung saan sila nakikita and sa pagkakadesign nito. Kung mababago yung pH natin, and lalo na kung drastic yung change, enzyme activity will surely decrease. A pH change affects an active site shape. Sabi ko kanina, yung meron tayong tinatawag na key and lock mechanism sa enzymes natin. As each enzyme is designed for specific substrate or target. Kumbaga, ang isang padlock is designed lang para sa specific na susi. Ang isang susi, hindi siya gagana sa ibang padlock. Same principle, ang isang enzyme, hindi siya gagana sa ibang substrate. Ngayon, enzymes have a special region called the active site. Kapag nagbago ang pH natin, even if hindi siya ma-denatured or masira, may tendency naman na ma-deform yung active site niya. If that active site is deformed, this is where the substrate fits, like a lock and key, ano mangyayari sa kanya? The enzyme shape can change slightly or greatly, and it will not function as normal. It will not bind to its target substrate. Ngayon, the substrate may no longer fit properly and the reaction will slow down or stop entirely depending on how severe the change happened. Ngayon naman sa protein structure natin. Protein shapes depends on charge interaction and pH controls. Those pH controls those charges. pH changes the charges of amino acids. Amino acids, ito yung building blocks ng proteins natin. Those changes are what keep the protein folded correctly. Depende sa specific amino acids and folding niya kung anong uri ng pH dapat siya expose. Gaya nito, aspartic acid and glutamic acid, usually nakikita natin yan sa liver. At low pH, neutral siya. Okay lang siya kapag mababa yung pH niya, kapag acidic environment. But the moment it becomes basic, nagiging negative siya at high pH. And at the same time, yun namang lysine natin, uh, positive siya at acidic. Pero nagiging neutral siya sa basic environment. Becomes neutral at high pH. Ngayon naman, si histidine, ito yung under ng imidazole group, positive siya sa acidic environment at nagiging neutral siya sa basic environment. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na yung mismong proteins natin nakadepende sa pagkakadesign niya ang tinatawag nating optimal pH niya. Kung saan mag-work siya the best it could. Ngayon, charges in amino acid. Enzymes are made of proteins, sabi ko nga, and proteins have amino acids. Ganito yan. From the DNA poproduce siya ng RNA. And RNA, specifically dun sa mga ribosomal RNA natin, dun magbabind si amino acids. And if there is enough amino acids, dun nagkakaroon ng proteins. And those proteins will bind together to produce a cell. And the cell will then turn into a tissue. A tissue, if there's enough tissue, it will turn into an organ. And an organ is what makes up human beings or living organisms. That is the process. Ngayon, enzymes are made of proteins and proteins have amino acids. These amino acids can gain or lose hydrogen or protons kasi positively charged siya. And depending on a pH, at low pH, it will have more hydrogen. And since positive charge siya, more positive charge ang mangyayari dun sa proteins natin. Ngayon, meron siyang charges depending sa pH ng proteins natin. And if it has been disrupted, ionic bonds or hydrogen bonds uh, hindi magkakaroon ng formation na maayos. As a result, bonds inside the enzyme break and structure becomes unstable. Ayan yung nangyayari kung bakit nade-deform yung mismong enzymes natin. Ito na ngayon, yung tinatawag natin na protein denaturation. When pH becomes extremely acidic or basic, proteins unfold. And if this happens, this is what we call denaturation. Paano po nangyayari yun, sir? Sabi ko nga kanina, yung pagkaka-fold niya, mayroong specific design niya, yung pagkaka-fold niya. 'Di ba? Sabi ko kanina, paano siya nananatiling folded? Yung mga hydrogen bonds niya, kumakapit hindi lang sa isang site. Ngayon, kapagka nagkaroon ng extreme changes or drastic change sa pH natin, nagkakaroon siya ng tinatawag natin na unfolding. It becomes too acidic or too basic. Bonds inside the enzyme break. Protein unfolds, hence the name denatures, and active site is destroyed. Sabi ko nga, kapag ka unfolded siya, hindi siya magsaserve as normal function, hindi siya magkakaroon ng normal shape. Kapag ka walang normal shape yung mismong enzyme natin, hindi siya gagana at hindi siya magbabind sa target substrate niya. Same with lock and key mechanism. Kapag nasira ang susi or nasira ang padlock, hindi na siya yung target shape, hindi na sila gagana sa isa't isa. Denaturation happens una when sudden heat or extreme heat ang nangyari, pH or chemical change happens at a protein's shape. So it can no longer function as intended. Ngayon, meron din kinalaman yung energy production natin when we talk about pH. Sabi ko nga kanina, pH is essential in ATP production because the difference in hydrogen ion concentration, again, sino ang nagkokontrol ng acidity ng pH natin? Si hydrogen. And without hydrogen, the concentration across the mitochondrial membrane is the actual force that drives ATP synthesis. And without it, ATP synthesis won't happen. Paano po yan? The electron transport chains pump hydrogen ions into the intermembrane space. And because of this hydrogen, this creates a pH gradient. High and low concentration. Saan dapat ang high concentration? Outside and low inside. This gradient stores energy called the proton motive force o nagkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na proton pump. When hydrogen flows back through the ATP synthase, the energy is used to produce ATP. Again, ATP is the chemical form of energy. This process happens in the mitochondria. And without optimal pH, it would not happen. Ngayon, necessary ang pH sa pag-produce ng energy natin. Wala tayong magiging lakas if this process do not happen. Chemiosmosis is the process in which ATP is produced using the energy used from a proton or the hydrogen. Again, dun sa charges natin, proton, electrons, neutrons. Ang may positive charge natin is the proton. Electron naman kapag ka negative charge. Ngayon, ang focus natin, since acidity siya, ang pinag-uusapan natin, and hydrogen ang nare-release. Nagkakaroon siya ng positive charge, therefore making it a proton. There should be a gradient across a membrane. Hindi siya parehas on both sides. Merong mas higher concentration and in this case, it is the outside. Kapag ka nagkakaroon siya ng travel, dun lang nagkakaroon ng process na to. Next, buffers and solution that resist change in pH. Ngayon, sir, ano po ang focus ng or purpose ni buffer? Buffer is the reason why there is no sudden changes of pH in our body. Paano po siya nangyayari? It is composed of a weak acid or a conjugate and a conjugate base. This mechanism of buffer action, it happens when acid is added or when base is added. Sir, paano po nangyayari yan? Yung buffers na yan. Um, i-discuss natin siya ngayon. Buffers absorb hydrogen or hydroxide ions. Ngayon, kapag ka acidic ang substance natin, si hydrogen siya. Kapag ka naman basic or alkaline, si hydroxide. So, sino ang nadadagdag kapag ka acidic? Si hydroxide. Siya yung inaabsorb ni buffer para hindi magkaroon ng sudden change ng pH natin. While si hydroxide naman, kapag ka bases or alkaline substance ang dinagdag natin sa equation. Ngayon, paano siya nangyayari? An example, yung bicarbonate buffer natin, anong components niya? Carbonic acid, yan yung nakikita sa katawan natin, and yung bicarbonate. Bicarbonate controls the alkalinity of our blood, while carbonic acid controls the acidity in our blood. Sir, ano po nangyayari kapag ka isa dyan tumaas? Nangyayari yung tinatawag natin na metabolic acidosis. Pag sinabi nating metabolic acidosis, masyadong mataas si carbonic acid and hindi na siya nagiging balance kay bicarbonate. Paano natin malalaman yung balance nila? Meron tayong tinatawag na carbonic acid and bicarbonate ratio. Every 1 carbonic acid, yan, there should be 20 bicarbonate. 1:20 ratio. In reverse, ano ang bicarbonate to carbonic acid ratio? 20:1 naman siya. Ngayon, bakit po sir mahalaga yan? Kasi dyan dumedepende yung reaction ng katawan natin. Meron tayong metabolic acidosis and metabolic alkalosis. Ngayon, kapag ka yung katawan natin, mataas si carbonic acid, mataas yung acid ng katawan natin, meron tayong, at masyadong mababa naman si bicarbonate, meron tayong metabolic acidosis. Kapag sobrang taas ni bicarbonate and mababa naman yung acid sa dugo natin, meron tayong tinatawag na metabolic alkalosis. Ngayon, When acid is added, paano nangyayari po sa kanya? Bicarbonate, magre-receive siya ng hydrogen ion. Si bicarbonate ngayon mako-convert into H2CO3 or carbonic acid. Yun po ang mechanism kaya hindi nagkakaroon ng sobrang drastic na change. Kaya nagiging acidic tayo, laging inverse yung relationship niyan. The more na dumadami si carbonic acid, the more na bumababa si bicarbonate. If bicarbonate removes the excess uh, hydrogen ion, sorry, bicarbonate removes the excess hydrogen ion. When base is added, H2CO3 plus hydroxide, ano yung nangyayari sa hydroxide natin? Sa carbonic acid, magdadagdag siya ng negative charge and alkaline na substance. Ano mangyayari? Mako-convert si carbonic acid natin into HCO3 or bicarbonate and H2O, water. Carbonic acid neutralize uh, hydroxide, and hydroxide will eventually lead to the production of bicarbonate and water. Kaya dun sa mga reactions natin, we can produce water, we can produce salts, and we can produce carbon dioxide kapag nanyo-neutralize si pH and si pH natin. Either acidic or basic substance yung nanyo-neutralize natin. Ngayon, sir, nabanggit niyo po metabolic yung dalawa na yan. I-discuss naman natin anong organs yung affected sa kanila. But before we go to that, dapat nating matutunan paano mag-compute using Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. Sir, ano po yan? Kung hahanapin po natin yung pH natin using those analytes in our body, ito yung gagamitin natin. pH is the measurement of acidity. While pKa is the strength of a weak acid, lower pKa equals stronger acid. Ngayon, yung pKa natin, kapag pH ng dugo ang pinag-uusapan natin, automatic yan, constant yan. Si carbonic acid, 6.1. Ngayon, si A naman, si concentration of conjugate base natin, and HA natin is the concentration of our weak acid. Ngayon, we use this equation when dealing with buffer solution systems that contains a weak acid and a conjugate base. Sir, paano po natin siya kukumputin? Meron tayong sample dito. Ayan. Before that, ang Henderson-Hasselbalch is ginagamit natin for buffer capacity insight. Tinitingnan natin kung enough pa ba yung buffer system natin para ma-maintain yung tinatawag natin na pH neutrality or homeostasis in our body. Kasi kapag may nabago dyan, masyado siyang magiging acidic or basic. Best buffering occurs when pH is equal to the pKa. Effective buffer range is pKa plus or minus 1. So, outside this range, buffering becomes weak and it no longer helps maintaining our body's pH. Ito yung situation na yon. Ngayon, kung magko-compute ngayon tayo, kapag yung pH natin, kailangan meron kayong scientific calculator next week kapag nag-quiz tayo kasi magko-compute tayo ng Henderson-Hasselbalch. pH is equals to, sino yung pKa natin again? 6.1. 6.1 plus logarithm natin, and then gawa kayo ng open and close parenthesis. Ayan. And then fraction, pindutin natin ngayon siya. Paano natin i-compute? Sino dapat yung nasa taas? Conjugate base natin. Ang conjugate base natin is sa bicarbonate, which is 24. And 24, ide-divide naman natin siya ngayon kay carbonic acid, 1.2. If tama ang execution nyo dyan, ang magiging outcome natin is 7.4. Ganyan lang siya kadali i-compute. Ngayon, titingnan natin, meron tayong range sa dugo natin. Is it under normal pH range? Yes. Kasi ang normal range ng pH ng dugo natin is 7.35 to 7.45. So the optimal pH is 7.4. It is very normal yung pH dun sa problem natin na yan. Practicein nyo ngayon yung problem na yan. If na-reach nyo yung tamang sagot natin, ready na kayo to compute Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. Ngayon, bakit ko siya diniscuss? Kasi mahalaga sa katawan natin na malaman natin ano yung normal pH natin, lalo na sa dugo. Kasi may kinalaman siya sa metabolism natin and our body's response. Ngayon, ito yung bicarbonate buffer system natin, the most important in blood. Ito yung nagme-maintain ng pH natin kung bakit hindi nagkakaroon ng drastic change. Etong H2CO3 natin or the carbonic acid, kapag nilagyan natin ng hydroxide yan, nagkaroon tayo ng addition of basic substances, yun yung mangyayari yung nasa right side natin. Hydrogen or H+, ayan, hydrogen ion, and bicarbonate will be produced. Ninyo-neutralize niya yung hydroxide ion natin. Ngayon naman, kung sakali namang hydrogen na madagdag sa kanya, kasi magkakaroon tayo ng addition of acids natin, and since acids brings excess hydrogen, si carbonic acid, mako-convert naman siya into H2O or water and carbon dioxide. Tandaan nyo carbon dioxide is one of the most factors that controls our body's acidity. Bakit? Ba't nangyayari yun, sir? Kasi sa organs natin, meron tayong tinatawag na respiratory acidosis, respiratory alkalosis, metabolic acidosis, and metabolic alkalosis. Sa lungs natin, paano nare-regulate yung pH natin? Ganito, compensation mechanism ang tawag natin sa dalawa na yan. If meron tayong tinatawag na metabolic acidosis, pag sinabing metabolic acidosis, masyadong mababa si bicarbonate. Yan, natatandaan nyo, bicarbonate and oxygen lang, carbon dioxide ang hahanapin natin. Pag metabolic acidosis, mababa masyado sa bicarbonate. Laging ang control niya lagi sa kidney. Ngayon, pag masyado siyang mababa, ang nangyayari, na-overcome yung uh, buffer system natin. Nagiging metabolic acidosis siya. Nagiging alkalosis naman kapag sobrang taas ni HCO3. Sino ngayon ang magko-compensate sa kanya? Yung partner niya si lungs. Tatandaan natin, ang most rapid na response natin, katawan natin to pH change is lungs. Anong gagawin niya? Kung acidosis na to, acidosis is masyadong mababa ang bicarbonate natin, ma-overcome siya ng carbon dioxide, magiging acidic tayo ng tuluyan. Ang gagawin ni lungs, magha-hyperventilate siya. Pag nag-hyperventilate ang lungs natin, i-expel niya ng i-expel si CO2. Since konti na lang ang CO2 natin, ang cause ng acidity natin kasi CO2 plus H2O will lead to the production of carbonic acid. So ngayon, mababa na yung CO2 natin, mababawasan na yung acidity, ayun yung tinatawag natin na compensation mechanism. And vice versa, kapag masyadong mataas is HCO3, magha-hypoventilate naman tayo, i-retain ng paulit-ulit ni lungs natin, si CO2 natin, si carbon dioxide natin, kasi kailangan natin siya na mag-combine kay water para tumaas yung level of carbonic acid natin. And ngayon, kung sakaling lungs naman na may problema, tatandaan natin, rapid ang change na nangyayari kay lungs. While long-term naman si kidney, but it is slower. While si lungs is short-term kasi rapid siya. Ngayon, ano nangyayari? Kapag ka naman meron tayong respiratory acidosis, masyadong mataas ang CO2 natin, ang gagawin ni kidney, magko-compensate siya ngayon dito sa um, metabolic natin. Ang mangyayari sa kanya, kung may respiratory acidosis, kabaliktaran, respiratory acidosis, metabolic alkalosis ang mangyayari. Doon siya magko-compensate. Paano nangyayari alkalosis natin? Paano siya magkakaroon? Ang gagawin ni kidney, ire-retain niya ng ire-retain si HCO3, ire-reabsorb niya sa kidney. Hindi niya hayaang sumama palabas sa ihi. Ngayon naman, kung alkalosis, masyadong mababa si CO2, ang gagawin ni kidney naman, is iihi siya ng iihi, ire-release niya ng ire-release si bicarbonate sa ihi natin para mapababa ito at makapag-compensate sa CO2 natin. This system maintains the blood's pH stability. Ngayon, paano nangyayari po yung sa kidney natin na yun? Yung bicarbonate kasi natin, pag nagkaroon ng contact sa hydrogen natin, sa usually nasa water yan, it will, or free na hydrogen ions natin, tsaka siya makakabuo ng H2CO3. Ito yung interconnected process, yung bicarbonate buffer system natin na yan. Ito yung mga other buffer system natin. Good to know na lang to, hindi na natin isasama sa in-depth discussion yan, pero dapat nabasa nyo. Phosphate buffer system works important in intracellular fluid and works well at physiological pH, while protein buffers, proteins like hemoglobin can accept or donate hydrogen ions due to ionizable side chains like histidine. And yan, review tayo ngayon. Bakit pH is logarithmic? Why are buffers important? And what happens to the pH when pH deviates? Discuss ulit natin sila. Balikan natin. Bakit mahalaga na si buffer ay ma-maintain? Kasi it prevents sudden changes in the pH in our blood. Kapag ka mayroong sudden change in pH, may tendency na yung mga enzymes natin ay ma-denaturize. Pag sinabi nating ma-denaturize, hindi na siya mag-work as intended. And kapag hindi siya nag-work as intended, mawawala yung folds niya and hindi na siya magwo-work sa target niya. Like enzymes natin, yung active sites natin, hindi na siya mag-fit to those substrate na target natin. Kaya pinipigilan natin ang sudden change ng pH natin. And what happens when pH deviates? Sabi ko nga kanina, drastic change in pH will damage protein structures. And those protein structures na yun ay mahalaga para mag-function yung enzymes natin. Ngayon, why is pH logarithmic? Pag sinabi kasi nating logarithmic, pH scale is logarithmic primarily because hydrogen ion concentration in everyday solution spans an incredibly massive range. Instead of writing cumbersome numbers like 0.00001, ang ginagawa natin, base 10 logarithmic scale lang natin. Simply, easily manageable the whole numbers like 7. So, 7, 10,000, 10,000 multiplication na lang ang ginagawa natin. Paano yung logarithmic? 7. Kapag ka naging 8, naging 9, 10,000 more base, more alkaline, 10 times more alkaline, 10,000, 100 times more alkaline, 1,000 times more alkaline, 10,000 times more alkaline. Like, times 10 ng times 10 na lang tayo dito. That is the reason, kaya yung measurement ng pH natin is logarithmic. Pero yan, wala na sa quiz yan. Good to know na lang natin. So, yun lang. Expect for a quiz next week. And I hope you guys correlated the experiment that we've made with our lecture discussion. Sana nakatulong sila na intindihin ng isa't isa and makatulong ito para masagot natin yung quiz natin next week. After this, magpo-proceed na tayo sa biochemical processes of our body. So, yun lang. Good day everyone and God bless.